All right, guys, so today we are going to be discussing a story that has been on my radar recently, and that story is about Dan's Restaurant and Taphouse. If you're unfamiliar, that is a restaurant in Washington County, Maryland, specifically in Boonesboro. And the reason we're going to be talking about them today is that recently they have been the subject of two discrimination lawsuits. One person is alleging discrimination against a black man, the other alleging discrimination against a white man. So it seems to me like they might have an issue here. And there is also some controversy surrounding the fact that they had a circuit court judge for Washington County trespassed from their restaurant, which again is another story that has been floating around out there. And the reason, or the purpose I should say, of this video today is to discuss what is being alleged in both of these complaints. It seems like there is a lot to unpack here, and that is what we're going to try to do here today with these two complaints. Now, right now, the one that's been the subject of most of the discussions online, this hasn't been picked up by any major newspapers or news organizations as far as I understand. Right now it just seems like most of the talk online is from people in the community and just people trying to get information about this story, and that's what we're going to try to do here today. But this one right here, this lawsuit right here, is the one that seems to be going around as of yet. And this is the Neil Glessner versus Chardan LLC lawsuit. This is one of the lawsuits, but we're not going to talk about the Glessner case as of yet. Not yet, because this one was filed on March 30th, 2022. We're going to start with the one that was filed on February 2nd, 2022, the first one. This is the one we're going to lead off with. And this is the Melvin Hall versus Chardan LLC, aka Dan's Restaurant and Taphouse. This was, again, like I believe I stated, this one was filed on February 2nd, 2022. And so it says under the nature of this action, it says Melvin Hall alleges that defendant Chardan LLC, aka Dan's Restaurant and Taphouse, defendant unlawfully discriminated against Hall on the basis of his race, black, by subjecting him to harassment, unequal pay/compensation, discrimination, and retaliation, which culminated in his discharge. Now, when you read this complaint, it goes on to say, says that Hall was hired to work at Dan's Restaurant and Taphouse in June of 2019. He was hired as a part-time chef overseeing grease fryer food strictly, so a fry cook. And it says he was hired to earn $12 per hour, but instead earned $11 per hour. It says Hall began to be verbally harassed with discriminatory language and retaliated against by his co-workers based solely off of his race. The lawsuit goes on to state that shortly after the commencement of Hall's employment at Dan's Restaurant, the management began to have Hall perform duties unconnected to his original position as chef. This would include dishwashing and work to unfamiliar machinery. And that when Hall expressed concerns to management at Dan's Restaurant, he was ridiculed and distressing rumors about Hall began to spread around the workplace. It goes on. Shortly after his expressed concerns to management, Hall began to be harassed by co-workers during normal business hours while performing his duties. Co-workers of Hall began to tortuously interfere with the duties of his job in order to distress him and make the functioning of his work more difficult. The complaint goes on to allege a physical injury that Hall sustained while he was at the workplace, and I will read that directly from the complaint. It says, on November 11th, 2019, while Hall was cleaning around the grease stove, his hand unintentionally made contact with hot grease, causing searing pain and injury to his hand. Hall pleaded for the help of his co-workers and management, who told him they were unwilling to assist him in providing medical attention until he, quote, clocked out of work. Once Hall urgently clocked out to comply with this request, management and co-workers informed him that he was off duty and to deal with his workplace injury himself. Hall had no other option than to drive himself to the nearest emergency room, where he was treated for his hand injury and panic attack. Hall had a 151/90 blood pressure reading at the time of check-in at the ER. The complaint goes on. It says, starting in January of 2020 to present day, Hall has been repeatedly stalked, harassed, taunted, and racially mocked at his residence, places of employment, and online by his former coworkers. And then finally, in this complaint, you have an allegation of a racially insensitive photograph that was texted to Hall that I'm going to read directly to you now. It says, in February of 2021, I guess that would be, notably Black History Month, individuals that Hall identifies as his co-workers from Dan's Restaurant and Taphouse texted Hall a racially obscene photograph which depicted a man using a tortilla wrap to replicate a Ku Klux Klan hood inside the very restaurant Hall used to work. The photograph was captioned at the bottom with, quote, Black History Month. So then obviously the complaint, as I believe I've mentioned before, goes on to express 4 counts. Count 1, harassment. Count 2, equal pay compensation. Count 3, race and color discrimination. And then count 4, retaliation. And the relief that Hall was seeking as it relates to this lawsuit was $50,000 in compensation. This is for past and future losses, including emotional pain, physical pain, suffering, inconvenience, mental anguish, anxiety, depression, loss of enjoyment of life, embarrassment, frustration, humiliation, and any amount to be proven at trial. So this lawsuit right here, the Melvin Hall versus Chardin, was actually forwarded to federal court, and I believe is currently playing out right now in federal court. So this one is up in the air, but this is the one that is missing from the headlines, that hasn't been talked of, I don't believe, anywhere up until now. So I wanted to put that on the record. And now we can talk about the lawsuit that was filed by Neil Glessner on March 30th, 2022. This is the one that alleges discrimination against him. He is a white man, and he has discriminatory allegations of his own. So let's talk about this one. And notably, what's funny is if you look at this one was filed, the Hall case was filed on February 2nd, and the allegations in this complaint allegedly take place on February the 18th. So that is a very close window of time. I just wanted to point that out. But nonetheless, filed on at the end of March 2022. So Neil Glessner is an adult. He's a citizen of Washington County, Maryland. And he goes on to make the following complaint against Dan's Restaurant and Taphouse. On or about February 18th, 2022, plaintiff visited Dan's for dinner. During his visit, plaintiff ordered 2 burgers and a salad to go so he could bring them home to visitors who were staying with plaintiff. At or near 8 p.m., approximately 45 minutes after he placed his to-go order, plaintiff commented to his friend, Joseph Michael, who was sitting at the bar, something in the nature of, "What's taking so long? I ordered a to-go order 45 minutes ago." I just want to hit a pause button on this for the moment, because Joseph Michael, notably, is also the judge who was trespassed, who they called the police on that same night. And there is body cam video of that incident, which I believe Neil Glessner is using as evidence in his case. So there is evidence of that as well, and we're going to clip some of that video into this one briefly, but I just want to point out that that is who Joseph Michael is. He is that circuit court judge from Washington County. But moving on. Plaintiff's comment was not directed at his server. The server nonetheless overheard plaintiff's comment and snapped at plaintiff, insisting that plaintiff needs to be patient because they are very busy. Plaintiff responded that it should not take that long to make 2 burgers, to which the server responded that he ordered more than just 2 burgers. Plaintiff responded acknowledging that he did in fact order a salad as well, but noted tongue-in-cheek that he did not believe it took too long to cook a salad. So that's a quote, it shouldn't take that long to cook a salad. As far as I know, you don't have to cook a salad. A salad is prepared, not cooked. So I don't know, maybe that's a sarcastic comment. Who really knows, but I guess that is how he responded to that. The server departed towards the kitchen in an angry fashion and returned several minutes later with plaintiff's order, and plaintiff left. Shortly after plaintiff departed, a manager, Mike Skinner, who I guess the complaint says is the manager, Mike Skinner, approached plaintiff's friend who had been sitting at the bar and told the friend to tell your friend, meaning the plaintiff, that he is no longer allowed at Dan's. So what I gather from this is that Mike Skinner, who I guess is the manager at Dan's, approached Joseph Michael, the judge, and told that friend, hey, Neil isn't allowed at this restaurant anymore. And so then from there, the friend, who I guess who I'm assuming is Joseph Michael Judge, replied stating something in the nature of, I'll do no such thing, I don't work for you. So that's how he responded to that request. The manager became upset and advised the friend that both he and the plaintiff are barred from the premises. So I'm assuming this is both the judge and Neil Glessner. The friend advised the manager that if he wanted to bar him from the establishment, he should call the police, whereupon the police were called and a Boonesboro Police Department officer responded to the scene at approximately 8:30 p.m. The police officer activated his body-worn camera and recorded the interactions with the friend and the manager. So again, this is where the body cam footage is going to come in place.
What happened?
Nothing happened.
Now that we can hear each other?
No, nothing happened.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do you have any ID on you, sir?
I do.
What happened?
Nothing happened.
Well, they call us saying you're being rude or something like that.
No, I mean, I was sitting there, another guy was rude, and they said, hey, you go tell your friend he was being rude. I'm like, I was just sitting here having a beer. So, I don't mind being.
Well, did they even get your name?
No, they do.
If they didn't get their name, they can't ban you.
Well, that's what I said. That's why I was asking for that. Do you have a body camera on?
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, good.
Why?
No. This would be fun. You should put this on the internet. No, I'm fine to drive.
Okay. You don't seem like you're intoxicated.
I've had 2 beers.
Okay.
They're on the bill in there. I don't. Until the 18th of next month, I'm the deputy state's attorney.
Huh.
And at that point, I've become the circuit court judge. I was appointed to the circuit court judge. I was appointed to be circuit court judge yesterday.
Wow.
And my
Congratulations.
Thank you.
When the police officer asked the friend what had occurred, the friend reported to the police officer that he had just been discriminated against. The friend drove directly to plaintiff's house, arriving at approximately 8:45 p.m., and told the plaintiff that he's not going to believe what had happened after plaintiff, again this is Neil Glessner, after Neil Glessner had left. The friend advised that they both had been banned from Dan's restaurant. When the plaintiff asked why, the friend explained that before the police arrived, the manager exclaimed to the friend, and this is a quote, "You old white people act like you own everything. Get the f*** out of here." Both plaintiff and the friend are Caucasian males over the age of 50. So from there, the plaintiff reached out to a guy's name is Daniel Often Brink, who, from what the complaint alleges, is one of the members of Chardan LLC. Neil did this through Dan's Facebook page, and this was to discuss the situation. The complaint goes on to say that after the plaintiff had reached out to I guess Daniel Often Brink via Facebook, Neil posted a message in the Boonesboro, Maryland community group on Facebook, and what he was doing was he wanted to ask if anyone else had been treated poorly by the staff at Dan's, and one of the manager at Dan's had made what they claim is a defamatory post on the group page, and they actually have this picture here. You can see it. This is a post from a gentleman by the name of Alex Thagard, who said that it was worth noting that this man, I would assume he's talking about Neil, would have said gentleman. He goes on to say, I would have said gentleman, but that no longer feels accurate, was recently asked not to return to Dan's because he mistreated our staff and shown blatant disrespect for our rules and hours of operation. So he goes on to say that basically assign blame to Neil in this whole situation. The complaint also goes on to state that, to the contrary, plaintiff had never mistreated Dan's staff or shown any blatant disrespect for any of Dan's rules and hours of operation, and that plaintiff had arrived for dinner at Dan's on several occasions in the past, well within the posted hours of operation, only to have been advised that the kitchen or the entire establishment had been closed early, and that the plaintiff has been unable to locate any rules and asserts that there are no such rules. The complaint goes on to allege other ways that the restaurant has treated Neil unfairly, such as a time when they would play head-banging music in order to make the plaintiff feel like he was unwelcome at the restaurant. And the complaint concludes with Neil Glessner alleging 2 counts, 1 count for unlawful public accommodation discrimination in violation of State Government Article 2304, and the 2nd count for defamation of character. He alleges that he was barred from the facility because he is old, quote, and white, quote. Defendant has refused, withheld, and denied plaintiff the privileges of a place of public accommodation because of plaintiff's age, race, and/or color. And the count 2, defamation of character, in which Neil claims that the defendant and its agents made numerous defamatory communications about the plaintiff, which tended to and did in fact expose plaintiff to public scorn, hatred, contempt, and ridicule. And the relief that Neil Glessner was trying to recover from this complaint alleges $75,000 in damages. One thing I should note is that this lawsuit as well was transferred to federal court, and I believe he bumped that from $75,000 to $500,000 in damages. Here's my thoughts on the situation. Right now, as we stand, we have 1 lawsuit alleging discrimination against a black man, 1 lawsuit alleging discrimination against a white man, and on top of that, we have a circuit court judge for Washington County who has now been trespassed from your premises. In my eyes, this is not a good look for a restaurant in Boonesboro, and I think that Dan's restaurant should probably get on top of this just briefly and perhaps make a statement. Look, maybe they have reason to do what they have done. I don't know. The complaints that I have just read are just allegations. They're complaints. They're not evidence that can be used in a court of law. However, it's not a good look. And I'm sure they have lawyers advising them. Maybe they have a PR firm who's going to handle this for them, but in my eyes, this doesn't go away so easy. So like I just said, I would come out, and if you have reason to do what you have done, if you think that this is all a misunderstanding or somehow this is justifiable, come out and put your cards on the table. But from an onlooker's perspective, it doesn't look that good. And where this goes from here, I don't know, but this is where we're at, and this is the story. So hopefully I was able to at least shed some light and some transparency as to what is actually taking place with these lawsuits and with what's been going on here. Hopefully, if there's any questions on this topic, I've been able to answer them in my walkthrough of the complaints that I've read to you. But these are ongoing matters, and what's to come is still unknown. So maybe we'll keep up on it, maybe we won't. But like I said, I think it is in Dan's best interest to put something out and just add your voice and your perspective to the conversation. I think it's needed, and I think, you know, at this point, what do you have to lose? So we'll keep up with it, and that's the story. Thanks for watching today's video.